Do you ever foresee in the future that there will be no pilots that will just be doing things by drones? I imagine that's how it must.
It's not even in the future. Um, I was at a lecture a year ago by Larry Ellison, the Oracle CEO, and there was sort of a doom and gloom in the room. Uh, some of the speakers were very anti-Trump, but he came up and I don't want to, it was a confidential closed audience, but he gave one of the most upbeat appraisals of the United States I've ever heard. And he was talking about what um, the new cryptocurrencies, AI, robotics, uh, marine drones, submarine drones, air drones, land drones. And he was talking about G's on pilots, 8, 9 G's, these things can go up to 15 or 20. And so he was, he was very relieved that Silicon Valley and private entrepreneurs are stepping up despite the general impression they don't like Trump because they're mostly left wing. But they are developing things that are, I think, that will nullify this very quickly. The Israelis are already dealing with fiber optic drones that are very hard to stop. And this gets back to the main problem I have with the Tucker Carlson thesis as it relates not to Jews, which I think is reprehensible, but to Israel. And he suggests it's a one-way deal. And you can see that all of these socialist candidates, one of their talking points is they do not want any more relationship with Israel. In other words, they favor illiberal regimes in the Middle East that are either theocratic, dictatorial, or autocratic or communist. That's what they favor. But they don't understand that when we give these weapons, $3.5 billion, and I say give them because we give them the money and then they buy the weapons from our people. And then I don't want to be antiseptic about killing people, but they're a laboratory in their wars. And then they call us, or we have people on the ground every day. So I'm sure that the Israelis and the United States, and there's no better engineers in the world, are now talking about how do you stop fiber optic cable, little tiny strands of drones against the Israelis in Lebanon? How do you stop these swarms? And they'll find a solution very quickly. But it's a wonderful relationship as far as what we get out of it. And that's never mentioned by the critics of Israel.
And we're certainly seeing the span or the spread of this new technology as we look at the Ukraine too. I never thought I would see the Ukraine on an offensive bombing things in Moscow, but they are. Nobody's really made much of that, but it seems it should be extraordinary. The Ukrainians are now.
They have a million drone. And what it is the Soviet Union is a command economy. It's not communist, but it's more like Hitler's National Socialism. In other words, the dictator Putin, like Hitler, picked captains of industry and said, "You do this, you do this, you do this," and then he would interfere in what they were doing, and he wouldn't allow competition. Whether it was people like Mr. Smith or Porsche, they were making weapons on spec for the regime, but there wasn't competitors. And sometimes it worked. I mean, the BF-109 was a good fighter, but really, if you think about it, over 6 years, the Germans developed the BF-109 and the FW-190, and then just the jets. That was pretty impressive. But United States was putting out 100,000 aircraft, Thunderbolts, Mustangs, uh, light bombers, B-26s, B-25s, B-29s, but they didn't do any of that. And that's not a good paradigm to keep abreast of technology, a command economy. And so the other thing, we have a military history program meeting that I chair at Hoover in October. And one of the things that we're going to talk about is, can Western nations who excel in technology and science, technology, engineering, and math, why does that lead that they establish with these new weapon systems, why is it so easily copied? How did Iran get near parity? How does North Korea get near parity? And how did Ukraine get near parity with Russia? And the answer is that a couple of answers is, in this globalized world, so much stuff is put out on the internet. And with the end of borders, we have no idea. I mean, the architect of this Antifa attempt to kill Trump at the White House was an illegal alien. So we have no, and then when you add into the equation, we have 1.1 million foreign students, and among them are 300,000 Chinese students and over 150,000 from the Middle East. And they are not just at places where I used to teach, Cal State Fresno, which has a good business school. They are at Harvard, Yale, MIT, Caltech, Stanford, and Georgia Tech, Texas A&M. And about 5% of them are appropriating that technology and sending it back daily to China. So it's very hard for a Western power to maintain that superiority when you have such diffusion now in this postmodern globalized world. And we're seeing that in Iran. I mean, they didn't invent anything that the drones that they are making are very wise, but they are adaptations from from General Atomics or from, remember we had a latest model in Iran during the Obama administration. People begged him to destroy it, and he was afraid even to bomb an inert drone, and they took it, and that was the basis of reverse engineering some of their latest models.
Yeah, and Donald Trump is a strident difference. He bombed their nuclear facilities quite easily too, seems like. I mean, maybe our military is just super impressive, and I'm
We're told that the Iranians now are reading Art of the Deal and talking to psychologists to figure out Trump because they can't figure him out. One day he talks about sending them to hell, and the next day he says he's going to build a new Middle East and he loves Iran and wants to make it great again. And there's moderate, and they have no idea what he's doing. So the left sees this as confusion. But when you read Art of the Deal and Art of the Comeback, and for the new book, The Counter Revolution, I went back and looked at those books, and it's textbook Trump. Come in there and say all kinds of crazy things that confuse the partner, and then storm out, say negotiations are off, say negotiations are doing well, demand 100%, and then your whole agenda was to get 55. So when he
yeah.
says they can't have drones, they can't give any money to Arab terrorists, they have to have regime change. They have to get rid of all their nuclear. We have to get rid of all this. He just had that whole agenda, but nobody could achieve that agenda unless you were occupying and destroying Japan or occupying Germany or going and taking out the Taliban and Saddam Hussein and, incurring 7,000 dead to occupy that country. But his point was, if I can get them to open the strait and keep it open and have no nuclear enrichment, it was worth it. And so I think when they get criticized, they don't know what his technique, because we never seen it before.
Yeah. Victor, don't give the enemy too many ideas about what
Well, they have
Trump's
their
up
own.
to.
They have. I'm sure there's a academic at an American university, and they called him up and said, "We'll pay you $1 million to come over here and psychoanalyze Trump for us." So I don't think they're Iranian psychologists. Iranian psychologists are theocrats.